It's been like a year since Red Candle released Nine Souls. It came out quietly, for me it was out of nowhere, since it's done pretty well for itself. Red Candle has a very good reputation for deserved reasons. They're one of the only Asian indie studios that folks likely know about, even if that's Jacksepticeye playing Detention 10 years ago or that one Super Eye Patch Wolf video. Fuck! Detention and Devotion were endlessly lavished, because they're amazing, so I've been told. I don't play horror games unless it has lesbians in it. Randomly seeing a Metroidvania from them 5 years after they dropped off my radar was weird. I don't need girls kissing to enjoy this genre, though I wouldn't stop them from doing so if they wanted to. Metroidvanias are really about the world itself. There's an overwhelming meaning in being a piece of something. You're in a tiny slice of an entire world itself, a tiny piece of an entire history. Much has happened, much will happen. Sure, the narrative conceit is usually punch the bad guy. All the same, these works often contain ecological themes about maintaining nature, or sociological about the futility of violence. Really, the cyclical horrors of history come very naturally when the Ludo is a reflective process of exploration. Does Nine Souls? Well, the sentiment that Metroidvanias are non-linear is moronic. The entire goddamn point is going to a certain place to get thing to access a place to get a thing. Rather, they're in conflict with linearity and often contain various interweaving branches that expand and converge throughout play. Metroidvanias have a dendritic structure. I am so pretentious. At least the good ones do. I wouldn't say they have to. Other elements of the genre are perfectly valid, but it kinda is the best part of the thing. As a first example, Ender Lilies. Actually, I have no idea if it's Ender Lilies or Lily Enders, and I know I get it wrong every time, so I'm not going to be bothered to check. You start on a literally straight path that is the tutorial, then you get the choice between going up or down. Each one can be done in any preferred manner, but both bosses must be defeated. Doing so gives access to the next area, which must be completed to access the next two. Completing either one leads to the first ending. It's an and/or structure. All considering, it's straightforward enough, but succeeds in giving players options, allowing them to self-direct, making them explore. It successfully invokes the feeling, even if the reality is more restrictive. The next example is most of them. A lot of Metroidvanias are straight lines pretending they're curved. Metroid Dread in the Prime Trilogy, Momodora 5, Flipwitch, the first half of Biomorph, all linearly proceeding from one area to the next in the exact intended order. This is not a death knell for a game in this genre, genres are bullshit, but it is boring in the scope of things. The best of the best are the ones whose design does psychic damage when I try to think about it. Hollow Knight, of course, incredibly well done to and fro in its exploration. Animal Well has this hub and spoke model in which areas get more complex and interconnected the further out. Biomorph is not a good game, but the structure of its second half is surprisingly amazing. Nine Souls' structure is like an and. The first three areas/bosses can be completed in any order, the next two are linear, the last two can be done according to preference, then the game's over. Not the most sprawling, but linearity makes telling a narrative easier. The real problem is the first part. So, fast travel. You're given a horn immediately that allows for limited fast travel, from any given rest to the hub and back to that rest. At the midpoint, this is upgraded to travel anywhere. So you're told to go do the first boss, Kao Fu. Halfway in, you're given Tai Chi Kick. This allows you to turn around and go for the second boss, Gao Mong, and grab Charge Strike, allowing you to go for the third boss, Yan Lao, and get Air Dash. There is a value proposition at hand that really sucks. All of those upgrades, along with accumulating money, accessing health increases, getting various pickups, are important. They give you options, they keep you from dying, and you need them because the game is difficult. When players go looking for difficult games, the point is getting your shit kicked in. I don't call her mistress because we're really good friends. However, this costs time and frustration. In the process of doing difficult things, it's very nice to have distractions. This is what I did in my first playthrough. Ying Zhao was somehow too difficult. Is that Ying Zhao? Is that a zhe? Ying Zhao? Ying Zhao? So I turned around. On my way to Gao Meng, I went left instead of right. I didn't feel like walking back. The first area I completed was Yan Lao's. The sky hook fight remains one of my favorites. Ying Zhao, I only have to say this name like 3 times. This is the easiest boss bar none by design. But that wasn't the challenge I was facing. My challenge was learning the controls. Being able to turn around, do something else is an extremely valuable part of the learning experience. Also, this fucking sucks and completely wasted my goddamn time. The trick is that the time cost of turning around is less than or equal to just doing it linearly. Only the first 3 bosses have limited fast travel, so you can teleport out, but you have to walk back. The pickups just aren't good enough to justify walking around that much. lfeeu gives you the bow too, so why bother breaking the intended order? This is conflict with linearity. The game's balancing is fantastic. Actually exploring these areas is wonderful. Watching the story develop is deeply engaging. But why bother allowing me to make a fake choice? Why make a system that allows me to waste my time knowing that it will and knowing how to fix it? The world as a whole is linear, and so are all of the rooms. Most rooms have some kind of set piece, puzzles, fight, platforming, that will bring you around the room in a big circle, splintering off to various pickups and optional challenges, along with a door or turning something on. That describes about 90% of the game. There are a handful of regular rooms designed to be navigated bidirectionally, going from point A to point B. Those are the worst ones. Large linear set pieces as a room makes it a bespoke handcrafted challenge, because every room is way faster to navigate the second time. Backtracking and getting pickups is fast and enjoyable. Standard Metroidvania design tends to be the exact opposite. Hollow Knight and Animal Well are more straightforward with less moving parts. There's a lot less shortcuts, with those shortcuts piece together entire sections of the world as opposed to single hallways. So you skip over bunches of rooms, but if you want to go through them again, it means redoing the entire challenge. It's a difference of opinion on what games in this genre are. It's like gender. I don't understand it. There's no wrong way of doing it. Genres are more of a vibe. Ender Lilies and Momodora have influenced design, yet neither calls themselves Metroidvania. Hard to believe if you look at them for 10 seconds. Hollow Knight's great, but most of its rooms are samey and boring. It's an absolute chore to walk back and forth between them as they all blur together because the majority of them don't have anything to distinguish them. Same cannot be said for Nine Souls. Animal Well is an avant-garde Jackson Pollock of world design. Same cannot be said for Nine Souls. More important than all that is what's actually in that world. Pickups are a vital part of the exploration experience. That's what players are exploring for. In the wonderful new Kunlun, you can find Jin, the game's currency, Jades, Jin for buying Jades, Darksteel, Jin for using Darksteel, Poison, Jin for buying Poison, exactly 2 pipe vials, Jin for buying the other 6 pipe vials, gifts for Shanshan, quest-specific items, Dao Fruit, Herb Catalysts, Jin for installing Herb Catalysts, computing units, Jin for buying computing units, recyclables, which can be converted into Jin. Last but not least, Jin. Worth mentioning, you can find Jin, the game's currency, allowing you to purchase items. The problem here is an over-reliance on shops. The most important pickups in the game were taken out of the world, replaced with Jin, and then made purchasable. From a design perspective, this solves innumerable problems. Because players always need it, it's always a meaningful reward. Players are then free to self-direct, spend it how they please on what they want. It creates control over pacing out player scaling. There's an inherent satisfaction in watching a number go up as well. Everything else about it blows chunks. What's better? Finding a cool item you immediately and tangibly benefit from, or finding 1/5 of some item you can get later if you want to and remember to do so. Buying things is fundamentally lame. Gameplay-wise, this isn't the worst thing ever, but if you start to analyze it, it's a goddamn tragedy. Permanent upgrades and unique equipable items. Always the most enjoyable things to give a player. In this game, that's poisons for health, herb catalysts and pipe vials for healing, dark steel and azure magazines for the bow, jades and computer nodes for creating a build, 7 out of 15 poisons, 4 out of 6 pipe vials, 4 out of 8 computer nodes, all azure magazines, about half of the jades. And it gets worse. While dark steel and herb catalysts are in the world, it costs money to actually use them. 10,500 and 6,400 in total, respectively. The one thing the game gets right is Dao Fruit. They're tied to a specific context, which is corpses, meaning they're found rarely around the world, given from bosses, and have aesthetic impact. On pickup, these give a subtle increase to damage output and skill points, which you can then spend. An absolutely wild piece of this, pickups in a given area aren't gated behind future upgrades, i.e. you don't need air dash or charge strike to 100% lfeeu's area, only Tai Chi kick. I haven't taken note of every single one, so forgive whatever exceptions do exist. Theoretically, any given room you enter can be fully completed in a single visit. There is a run of this game that 100% with essentially zero backtracking. Oh, I wanted to edit this portion. Oh well, Nine Souls has a built-in pickup tracker. Ender Lilies usually gets the credit for this. In that game, it was built into the map screen from the start with a really simple blue has stuff, gold does not. However, Metroid Prime 3 Corruption is the earliest version I've seen. The goal with this mechanic is always the same. Certain players, me, will want to 100% the game, but for whatever reason find external resources to be gross and bad, so incorporate it into the game itself. Ender Lily's version is disgustingly elegant considering how brain dead it is. It's fucking awesome. But stepping into a new room only to be told nothing of interest is in here, that's terrible. In Nine Souls you have to find a robot called Shanghai 9000 and get a map chip. The Shanghai are unique characters tied to specific areas, all with unique bits. You're given a choice to either rip out their chip or ask for a copy in exchange for Jin. I'm gonna spend too much time shit talking it, but this is one of my favorite combat systems ever. Part of that is just masochism. I can't enjoy things that aren't actively hurting me. It's that parry-focused combat, rapidly paced, in which your best defensive option is walking directly into your opponent, and your best offensive option is guarding. Punishing enough that not having a plan will get you killed, but requiring split-second reactive decision-making. Frenetic, dramatic, chaotic. Developing skill is controlling that. Hone the precision of your inputs and integrate game knowledge until nothing can even touch you. What really makes this combat work is the actual feel, which isn't necessarily conveyed effectively through footage or description. The way Yi moves in a fight, the inputs you're doing, the endless list of things running through your mind. The game sacrifices its platforming in the name of its combat. Yi is kind of slippery, he carries momentum in a weird way. This means that going from platform to platform, Yi's slip sliding like an oil fetishist and you never land on things the way you'd expect. God forbid you try to do anything precise. It literally never feels good. Most falls are not the player's fault and it does not get better. But oh my god, carrying your momentum into a slasher parry, getting thrown across the room by an opponent's attack to where you want it to be. It makes even the simplest exchanges have this dynamic, bouncy, wonderful goodness to it. Absolutely worth it. Fuck jumping, this is the shit. There is not a more satisfying parry system. Landing into counter, turnaround strike is just insanely satisfying. When Metroidvanias sit down and truly master the combat, it kinda just becomes Smash Bros. In the sense that it's that good. Platform fighters are all about positioning, spatial awareness. Movement is the most vital skill for any player. This just translates perfectly, particularly to any system that prioritizes melee combat. The fact that grounded parries are directional, this means Yi's facing direction is a vital element of competency players ingrain into themselves. Learning how to buffer turnarounds out of other actions, minimizing horizontal movement while doing so, tracking that while in the air. I can't just hold in and spam, it forces me to interact with the game on another level of attentiveness, just like Ultimate did when I was 17. Oh my god, my life is evaporating before me. As a whole, the boss fights are immaculate tests of execution. Audio and visual masterpieces, absolutely fantastic, wonderfully brutal. You learn the intricacies of the fight or you will never win. Septgao Mong, that one's kinda trash. Nothing this Insertum does is horrifically egregious. It's a lot of minor issues interlocked with all the best bits, so we can see everything it does great and terrible at the same time. For that, we'll analyze the toughest fight in the game, Igong. Igong? No, Yugong. Enemies don't have patterns so much as they have a list of moves that they can chain together in a decision tree, functionally freestyling combos in a somewhat predictable manner. Igong will typically open with slow start, cross up, triple poke, dash, or shuffle, followed by down slash, talisman, triple poke, or cross up, finished with delayed slash, ball, dash, or shuffle. In order to parry Crimson attacks, you need to time Unbounded counter, which has to be grounded and charged. Teal attacks require Tai Chi kick, which is an aerial parry. This is what makes positioning and spacing so important. I tend to jump into her basic sword swings. For slow start and cross up, this knocks Yi further away or in front of her and helps with keeping distance for talisman or delayed slash. For triple poke, this opens up the opportunity to deal damage or get up behind or away. Holding parry while landing buffers charging Unbounded counter, making landing it against down slash much more consistent. Somewhere in the middle of this, you have to actually deal damage. Weaving in 1s, 2s, maybe a 3-hit combo is part of that, but limited to being chip damage. The main way to kill is through ki blasts. These require ki charges, trapped in the up left corner and gained by parrying. There are 3 different versions of ki blast. The default one consumes up to 3 charges, takes a set amount of time to explode, and does medium damage. Full Control offers for full control of the amount of blasts and amount of time Yi has to float ominously. A 5 charge blast does high damage and staggers. And Water Flow, which does not require manual detonation but has very limited damage output. In the footage I'm using Water Flow, so I'm constantly trying to apply the Ki Blast between nearly every move. If you're using Full Control, this would look a lot different. There aren't a lot of opportunities to get off a 5 charge hit. One of the more notable ones is during Delayed Slash. The best one is risking it on Triple Poke. She does this move constantly. The more common follow-up is another Triple Poke. The only problem, the real risk in doing this, is that the hitbox is fucked. She stabs downward at the ground, but it extends up to her head and shoulder. If you've played a single FromSoft game, or just a lot of these games in general, then it's just something we have to recognize as inevitable. The visuals are not how the engine registers hits, they're just visuals. It is unavoidable that a handful of attacks are kinda bullshit. Yi's talisman is kinda bullshit too. He does the action with his hand in the middle of his body, but the actual hitbox extends above his head and down to his knees. This advantages the player. Yi's a small dude, so it never looks bad, and it's additive. There's lots of interactions that you can leverage by hitting the bottom of that hitbox. The worst one in the game is Igong's talisman. It's the only grab, and I couldn't possibly explain how the fuck it's supposed to work. Sometimes you get yoinked by the pinky toe, sometimes you lovingly place Yi's entire head into her hand, and she misses. All teal attacks are also crimson. According to the visual language of the game, every single one of them should be parryable by both Tai Chi Kick and Unbounded Counter. This is true, except for the robot whose sole purpose is forcing you to do a Tai Chi Kick. How did the fuck did I just say that? And Igong's talisman. Sometimes you parry directly on top of her and it misses, or parry it and then Yi apparates across the room and explodes. I don't make the fucking rules. The worst defending fight is actually my favorite, Fuxi. Most of his hitboxes are just big rectangles taking up a third of the arena. He claws the ground and it reaches his shoulder. I do not shit thee when I say the correct facing direction for Delayed Slash is away from Igong. No matter where Yi is in the hitbox itself, Yi has to have his back to Igong. That right there might show why it gets fucked. Look at the choreography of this fucking move. She's doing an anime, clicking the laser knot katana into the sheath. Back to back, Yi's deflecting the strikes as they happened. It's awesome. It's fucking badass. Mechanically, it makes no sense at all. That's so stupid. The visuals come from the center. Why wouldn't it be face the center? Internal damage is an absolutely fucking brilliant mechanic. There are 2 timings for parries. A precise parry makes a wonderful sound and causes no damage taken. An imprecise parry makes a less satisfying sound and drains the green portion of your health bar, leaving behind a semi-translucent red. The red is internal damage. Unlike the green, this recovers over time without needing that Mary Jane. It also can't kill you, but it is converted into real damage when taking a hit. This gives the player a needed degree of leniency. When exploring, if you're surprised but still react, you can hold on to more of your not die juice. In boss fights, it allows you to make a series of minor mistakes and make up for them by playing better. Enemies also take internal damage. From successfully parrying with a Tai Chi Kick or Unbounded Counter, their health will get a maroon portion. Unlike Yi, they don't recover it, and it's converted into real damage by executing a Ki Blast. Here's me destroying Igong's first phase in a single hit. Unfortunately, I'm going to end this section on a low note. 2 forms of progression in the game are Jades and Skills. Both of these should be a lot better than they are. Jades are directly copied from Hollow Knight. They're unique modifiers to some element of gameplay that cost varying amounts of points, both obtained throughout the world. Hollow Knight deserves a lot of credit for this system, but it's not like Team Cherry invented it. It's fine if the devs want to rip it off, but I can think of 3 games off the top of my head who all just directly copied it, which sucks. Be inspired by this system to make something better. The first major issue with Jades is getting computing units. I don't fucking know what it is getting computer nodes. Stop calling them that! Start with 2. In the first half of the game, 3 additional are available for pickup. 1 is found in the world. 1. The other 2 are in the shop, costing 2,800 total. That's a maximum of 5, realistically 4. Most jades, particularly the good and cool ones you want to equip, cost 2 points. At most, you can have 3 jades in use for the entire first half of the game. This is not enough to create meaningful synergies, which is a second major issue. Having interesting synergies that create fun and unique builds is a struggle at best. Some of these are more obvious. Harness Force plus Focus makes Charge Strike a lot stronger. Add in Keyblade and suddenly you barely need Ki Blast, so you can use Water Flow to deal even more damage. Hedgehog plus Reciprocation plus Iron Skin allows you to create internal damage and force it onto the opponent. Some are really good additions to whatever you're doing. Swift Ascent adds an entire piece of movement that's kind of insane. Medicinal turns the healing into Dark Souls 2, so it's my favorite. Ricochet, Revival, Popper, not the most useful, but could be for some. All this is irrelevant for 3/4 of the game. Most of the jades listed are in late game areas, along with the units you need to equip them. Trying to actually make a worthwhile build has to wait for the last 3 bosses. If you go out of your way to get every unit before those fights, in the final sprint you can have fun. In the playthrough I did for footage, my most fastest, most optimal 100% playthrough, I got Cultivation and Avarice, which are in a goddamn room apart, and left them equipped until Nuwa, Fuxi, and G. Almost the entire game optimized for money and XP instead of having fun, and I still struggle for both. Skill trees are such a tired, worn down mechanic from haplessly injecting RPG elements into otherwise fine games. Compliments where they're due. Advancing down the skill tree is perfectly paced across the entirety of the game. First skill in the first room, last skill in the last room. That is genuinely incredible. But there's nothing engaging about linearly proceeding down a checklist. It's just a grocery list. I'll grab potatoes now and cheese later. Having to unlock Run is a little insulting. Swift Rise and Skull Kick are the only ones that matter early. Then you have to wait to get full control and water flow. Nothing else here matters because you'll get it eventually. They took all these interesting, meaningful things out of the world and put them in a menu, then replaced it with Jin. Tone the energy all the way down because I am trying to finish this video up at like 6 o'clock in the morning. If you want an actual thematic analysis of the game's narrative, watch Nine Souls and the Prison of Rationality by Aram Alex. He goes into detail appreciating what the game is doing, comes to pretty great conclusions. Shut up. And unlike me, liked it. The game is pretty explicitly engaging in a dialogue between that of science versus spirituality. It uses characters to argue various positions, Yi embodying the ideal of rationality, his sister Hang being the intuition of the spiritual, and everyone else somewhere along that spectrum. Weathering with You, stay with me now, is probably the best thing Makoto Shinkai has ever made. Not as funny as Suzume, not as romantic as Your Name, but overall his best work. The ending has a pretty obvious message about how the younger generation will have to keep living despite the collapse of capital and the entire climate. But the mechanics of the world, how being Weather Girl actually works, does condemn our protagonist to be exactly as selfish as he feels. Interpreting this movie is paradoxical. The openly stated, likely intended interpretation contradicts the implied logical one. Either Shinkai does think Hodoka is personally culpable for ecological disaster and everything else the movie says is bullshit, or maybe the kids shouldn't blame themselves for 70 years of political failure. Yi is wrong. Purely scientific understanding is non-functional. Yi is blatantly and obviously wrong. The Tao is a vital element of reality that surrounds every facet of our existence and is unfalsifiable. Yi is so ridiculously wrong from the word go, having a debate is intellectually dishonest. The game doesn't provide scientific explanations for how to harness chi into a sword. How can he dash? What about spiritual connection gives you a double jump? This is perfectly fine as mechanic and setting, but the narrative requires explanation to be taken seriously. It's just magic. It's a soft magic system too. Gentry Chao handles the same mythos to a similar result. Yi's side is a presupposition that modernist thinking is overtly materialistic and maintains an easily disproven ideological position through the rhetoric of silence. I messed up on the last word. While the opposition is a null hypothesis that Taoism is objectively correct. But the material world, the thing science exists to analyze, primarily functions off of Taoist principles. Taking that bird's eye view, this is a very dumb argument. I think the game wants to keep the ideas extracted, so that debating them is viable, but it's not. Qi is just real. If we could reliably evidence the existence of Qi, it would destroy our entire understanding of the physical world. It's also not why anybody believes in Qi, or the soul, or God in general. From a technical perspective, the storytelling on display is absolutely incredible. The character writing and dialogue is absolutely astonishing. But intellectually, it's vaguely posturing without successfully engaging the question. Womp womp. Womp womp. And I think I'm going to do my postscript ramble so I don't have to open up Audacity again later. But yeah, if you ignore like the 3-month depression spiral, this project actually went just incredibly well. Just smooth, and it was nice. I hate having to do this, and I hate the idea of having to do this, even though I've done that. I kind of have to forever. Pay me. Yeah, just pay me. Patreon, Substack, and eventually I'll do like a second channel or something just so I can upload bullshit without being upset by the view count. I probably don't have anything more intelligent to say besides that. Unlike what I'm kind of done with most other projects, I don't have like a strong idea just kind of lined up that I want to jump into. So I think I'll do the thing where people can vote on what the next thing is. I'll say in like 3 to 7 days after upload, I'll do probably like a community post, and then patrons, if there are any, can vote on like a list of projects, and I'll go ahead and like throw that up on screen for what those projects may be. And then other than that, oh shit, this is okay. This is the one time that we'll ever do this. Like, never mind, I don't want to. Okay, bye.